much everything on here is related to that. Make a motion to approve the October sewer board minutes.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to the next item is old business. And under our old business, property code violations.
Mayor, Council, so covering a few of these, we've got letters we sent out, 205 Old Columbia Road, James Delaney, Daly, apparently there's several vehicles that are still parked there, still an issue. My recommendation is to send a second letter and then whether we're going to court, get it cleaned up. So that's my recommendation on that. Johnny Spans back and forth on 11-5. That's 105 Hooper was cleaned up. It's getting back in the same shape it was in. So the court's well aware of it and considered contempt against it. The 109 Hooper Road, which is Christopher and Linda Smith, that is cleaned up and I'm removing that from the list. So Adam and Karen Gibbs, that's 108 Hooper Road. That is cleaned up and I'm removing it from the list. Some of our letters are working. Some of it, going and reviewing it's working. 3373 Highway 48 North, Michael G. Estes. Apparently that's some storage units. There's still issues with the gutters, debris on the property, doors left open, not really finished and not a lot of progress. Again, my suggestion is to do a second letter and just take them to court if they don't have it the next time we review it. 131 High School Street, Juliana Ish. That's been cleaned up and it's going to be removed from the list. The next two, Highway 48 property, Kimberly DeMungie, probably mispronouncing her name, but that came before, I believe, the Planning Commission. That was reviewed by you all as well, and that's been completed. I'm going to remove that from the list. Then we have 4035 Highway 48 North, Jacob and Kathy Fort. That came before you all, and it's also a matter that's before the Planning Commission. There was some documentation they needed to bring. I think they're going to resubmit it for consideration, as I understand. So there's really not action for you all to take on that. Maybe that's an update as to those properties.
Anyone have any questions? All right, we'll move on to the next item, and Josh, you're up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff, thank y'all for having me. I'll make this brief. Our fire station design we'll have for next month. Chief Millett was on fall break 1 week. I was on fall break the week before. So I apologize. We told y'all we would have that for you tonight. We do have some things to show you on the pocket part. I've got a pointer here. Now this is my laser tape. Here we go. Sorry, man. I won't get on your head there. This is the park right here that we showed last council meeting. There's the ADA parking area right there. There's the connection where the existing spring is, the historic spring, and we're taking it on to Tracy Academy, and then a small pedestrian bridge across that valley, and then this would lead you to the square. This is the part of the portion that we're calling it phase 1. This would be phase 2. So Mayor, Ms. Jennifer, and myself met with the Healthy Built Environment Grant folks, kind of gave them an update where we were at. So that seemed to go really well with them. They were good with our progress. I'm going to flip this board and kind of show you all what we did. And I dropped this board on my way in, so I apologize for the messiness at the bottom. So what we've done, we took the contours because it's my experience, some people understand what contours are and some folks don't. So this top this top overlay here is kind of a mesh terrain model of what the existing contours are right now back there. And you can see, for lack of a better term, that's a bulge there and a bulge there. And that's where we've placed the pocket park to go. So this is something that our civil engineer, Clint Head, he's made a suggestion for us, and I completely agree. After we get through the schematic design phase with the park, and you can kind of see where we're heading with this, he suggested that we do some soil borings right here, because he's thinking we will probably hit rock at some point. We've got a spring down here. You can see that lower bulge and that upper bulge there in the terrain. So just to make sure, we probably need to do a soil study right here. But you can see where we've placed the park. You can see the 1 in 12 slope and the landings. Those landings will have benches and lighting. You can kind of see what we had to do to the contours here, kind of shape it. And these retaining walls on this side will most likely get a little taller. We've got the highway right there, so we've got to make sure that we don't disturb any of that. What we've done here, and you can kind of visually, I'm going to leave this board with you all this evening, and I would encourage you all to look at this. We've regraded some of this right here, so that my hope is that this retaining wall right here would go away. So Mayor and I met last week and kind of went over this, and I showed Mayor, gave him two options what we're thinking. One would be a segmental retaining wall, which is your least expensive option. We've got that at a couple of our projects in Ashland City. So if any of you all would like to go see that, I can show it to you. They call it the Great Wall of Cheatham. It's large. And then the other thing that I mentioned to Mayor, and he seemed open to it, is a board-formed concrete retaining wall. So it would be concrete, it would be formed out of boards that we sandblast, and we bring the grain of the wood out. So when the concrete's poured, we take the forms off. You've got a really cool looking wood grain look on those retaining walls that face the highway and Spring Street. So those were kind of the options we were looking at for the retaining walls. So you can kind of see kind of what we're doing with the terrain and what we're not messing with. You can also see, I didn't point this out, you can also see the spring right here. And you can see that I'm trying to stay out of that spring as much as possible. So this should give you all a good idea of what we're looking at grading wise. Mayor had mentioned that he had a local contractor that might be able to price some grading for us. If you all are okay with this concept, I can talk to our civil engineer and he can work on getting us some spot elevations to work on some early schematic grading. So, but I wanted to present this to you all because a lot of times when you see, if you flip that drawing around and you look at those contours, it's kind of hard to understand sometimes unless you're an engineer. These guys look at it and they know exactly what they're looking at. Some of you guys might, some of you might not. So that's why we did this exercise, to show you all kind of what we've got and where we're heading. So do y'all have any questions on this?
What happens if they do a soil test and they find that the rock is down there? What does that change for you?
It really doesn't change anything as far as the design. It changes some of the engineering aspects. That's a great question. Some of the footings, some of the retaining walls, it definitely changes some of that. Once you all get finished with your meeting tonight, I would encourage you to look up close to that very top terrain model, and you can really see how it could possibly be a rock outcropping there.
There's 4 rock outcrops there.
There's 4 of them. Well, you can definitely see them. You know, you can definitely see them in this. Sorry, I'm using my laser measuring tape for this, but you can see it there, and there's one there. So you can kind of see. I tried to stay on top of those, and that little plaza there, tried to stay on top of that. So
The ones that are protruding are further up where you've done the regrading.
right up here.
Yes.
Okay. So we might be having a retaining wall over there. So probably what we'll do some soil borings at this area, and maybe 2 or 3 over here, just to make sure that what we're looking at is, we're not hitting too much rock, so. Y'all have any questions? Okay, so next council meeting, Chief Millett and I will have exterior renderings for the fire station, and we will complete these renderings for the park. So.
That's when we will know dollars.
So if you all approve the schematic designs that we show you, and everybody's good with that, then we can start to assign some dollar amounts. We're trying to keep the dollar amount as low as we possibly can, but that's why I'm kind of incrementally showing you kind of what we're doing with the park and the grading, to make sure you all understand there is quite a bit of grading here and regrading over here. And just like he said, we might have to keep that retaining wall. If you remember, this was the old street that was surveyed there that was never constructed. So that's kind of, we're trying to bring some sharp history to this too. So that retaining wall might stay, and that would be phase 1. But we'll have more dollar figures as we get further along. It's a great question.
So this end closest to the spring is a bridge, and then that back there is also a bridge type.
So this would be a bridge structure here, pedestrian bridge. This would probably be a stepped walkway. It wouldn't have to be a bridge.
Okay.
And again, study this when you get a chance to look up close to it, and you can turn it around and look at the contours too. We've got a nice, I won't say it's flat, but relatively speaking, the grade right here is not as great as everywhere else.
Sure.
Which works in our benefit. The other thing that we've got to do, and you can look on that survey and see, the state-owned right-of-way property is right in here. So we are staying right just off of their right-of-way by constructing that at an angle across there to Tracy. Tracy Academy is here.
Is there any way for a washout for it being just not a bridge there? I'm not an engineer, so please
No, it's a great
I'm
question.
just asking questions to what we're looking at.
It's a great question. So if we look at this and the civil engineer says we probably need a small bridge there, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
We definitely have a bridge right here, without a doubt. We've got a bridge right here. What we are looking at, we've used in a couple different scenarios like this, a prefabricated pedestrian bridge system. That can be, the foundations on each side will be poured, fully reinforced, and they'll bring in their prefabricated bridge, set it in place, and we're done. That's probably the most cost-effective way to go. So, and again, this will be phased. This would be phase 1, this would be phase 2, and 3, and that bridge would probably be 4. So, and talking to the Healthy Built Environment Grant folks, they agreed that we probably needed to phase this. So this would be a multi-year project if the city decided to execute this entire comprehensive plan, that it would be something that we would try to go after grants year after year to complete these different phases.
The current grant will cover concrete.
We think the current grant will cover this right here.
Okay.
That will get us started.
Okay.
These are great questions, man. You should have been an engineer.
Sorry.
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
For the CBDG, for the fire hall moving to the next phase, like when do we have to have the letter of intent in by? Because I know it was opened in October.
I don't remember.
I'm looking on the website and I don't see it.
Okay. We can, is it Chris that we're dealing with now?
Chris Barber.
If we talk to Chris Barber and get that worked out, we should have, Chief and I have our renderings for next month. And again, I apologize. When I met with you all last month, I didn't realize fall break. I knew it was coming, but it didn't register. So, and then Chief took the following week, so. But we'll have that for next month for y'all. All right, thank y'all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Okay, the next item is Strand Associates and a study that they did for our sewer assessment that we requested. And so Paul's here to give us the results.
Yeah, hopefully my computer and everything still works like it was a few minutes ago. And all right, that's usually a good sign. Well, that's not good.
Okay.
Oh, I think it turned off just at the exact moment. Sorry, the timer must have run out. Well, give it a second. While I was warming back up, my name is Paul Marin. I'm an engineer with Strand Associates. I've been working with water and sewer systems for the last 25 years. I was the project manager for this project. With me is Trey Vincent over there behind you. He helped me out a lot with the project engineering and things, and just very grateful to be here and share this. I'm glad to finally meet so many of you. Let's see if I can make this bigger, a little easier to read for everybody. Okay, great. I will be the first to admit I will talk about wastewater all day long, even into the night. Chad knows that, other people knows that, but I'm going to try to keep this relatively short. I like to keep it informal, so if you have any questions or something doesn't, want to dive deeper into it, please just let me know. And with that, we'll get started here. And I'm just not having good luck with the remotes here. Let's try this. So what we're going to talk about is why we did this assessment, what was its purpose, talk about your system, talk about its performance, talk about the future conditions and how that might impact the system's performance, and how everything that comes into some recommendations towards a 5-year capital plan. So the project goal is to assess the wastewater system to develop recommendations for future improvements. And the way we did that was we reviewed your existing information. We went over a lot of things. I'll get into the details, but it's things like this, your operating reports, permits, submittals, things like that. And what we look for are trends and patterns. Wastewater systems are generally very predictable things. They respond to different stimuli the same way over and over again. So when you look at a lot of data over time, you can start to see some patterns and trends that then you can apply to industry standards and benchmarks. Maybe something is happening more than you would expect, or less. And those could be opportunities for enhancements, or could tell you things are good. And all that can feed into the capital plan to make your system the best it can be. We looked at all of your assets. We looked at the valve pits, also known as sewer pots. Those are the containers outside of folks' homes that collect the wastewater and store it until it discharges into the vacuum mains, where it's sucked along in the vacuum system to the vacuum station, which provides that pressure. Then the pump station that sends it over to the treatment plant where it receives treatment. We looked over your board meeting minutes to get ideas about work orders and repairs. We looked over your permits and the permit reporting to get an idea of where things were standing. So this is what we found. So we started looking at the system performance against industry benchmarks, and I know this is probably a little small here, but this is vacuum pump 1 and vacuum pump 2. On this axis right here, we're showing what the flow rate is for each of those pumps at different points in time. So right here, if you could really zoom in, it's about August 27th, and it was pumping at about 140 gallons per minute that day. Okay? And what we see here is that this trend line, you're getting more wastewater. You're getting more flows through the system. It's trending upwards on both of those. But the pumps are keeping up with things. They're doing a good job. They're doing their job. They're meeting the needs of the system. If we were seeing it in the opposite direction, that would be worrisome. When we look at the sewer pumps, they're also doing well, but what we noticed was the run times. This blue line here shows the amount of time the pump number 1 was going for each day, and the orange line shows the amount of time pump number 2 is going. What you can see is pump number 1 runs nearly every single day. Pump number 2 may go quite a while without running. And that is perfectly okay to run your system that way. A lot of communities do that, where they run one pump a lot more often than the other one, so that the other one doesn't get a lot of wear and tear on it, and it stays in good shape. However, generally speaking, the better practice is to run them at about the same time, so you balance out that wear and tear, and you can often get a little bit more useful life out of it, and they'll last a bit longer. Also, that way you have two pumps that are probably about the same. It's kind of like, if you're going to replace a tire in your car, might as well do both the front tires or both the back tires type of thing. Keeps things matched. So you talked about rainfall and the system responding to that. I'm very glad that you all are familiar with that. When we look at systems, how a system responds when it rains tells me a ton. I don't know a single sewer system in this world that doesn't get more flow in it when it rains. It's just how it works. Water gets into the ground, gets into the cracks in the pipes, and you see flows go up. This graph shows the flows to the treatment plant over different periods of time on just wet days. So you can see the plant on this particular day had about 200,000 gallons per day. And this orange line shows the trend line. And what I see here is it's holding steady. Actually, in fact, it's going down slightly. So that means your operations and maintenance are keeping up with the aging of your system. If we saw that trend going up, it would mean that as your system is getting older, as you're getting more cracks and breaks in the lines, your operations and maintenance aren't keeping up with it. So this is also a very good sign. What you're doing, the investments you're making into the system are keeping it in good physical condition. What is a bit concerning, though, is if we look at the wastewater treatment plant's capacity, this red line, and you can see during wet weather days, it's above the treatment plant's capacity, what it's permitted to handle. Okay, and that we're going to talk a bit more about that in the coming slides. The other thing we looked at is just to kind of make sure we're not seeing a blip in the data, is how much rain does it take to see a wet weather impact? So here again, we're showing the flow to the treatment plant, and this is the amount of rain per day. And this shows our average flow. And what you start looking for is where does, over here where you have light periods of rain, sometimes it causes more flow, sometimes it doesn't. You get a light, gentle rain, you may not see any flow. A lot of the systems I work with, they start seeing increases in their flow from 1/10 of an inch of rain to 1/4 of an inch of rain. And what we're looking for is at what point does the flow to the treatment plant consistently get over the average flow? And for Charlotte, it's somewhere probably about 3/4 of an inch. That's quite a lot. And it shows that the system is in good physical shape, that it can get that much rain before you start consistently seeing a lot of wet weather impacts. Like I said, a lot of communities see that much sooner. We looked over the work orders and maintenance, and quite frankly, we didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Sometimes it's a little disappointing to come back to your clients and say, hey, we didn't find anything, but this is good news, okay? This is good news. We went back over the last 12 years of meeting minutes. All the repairs and things we saw is what we'd expect for a system of this age, for the conditions of it. Nothing really surprising there. We didn't see anything that's like, oh, these type of pipes seem to be breaking more often. It's just pretty much expected. What we did notice is that as the valve pits, the sewer pots have been replaced, we're seeing improvements in the system performance, and so we would recommend continuing to replace those with the newer ones. They're much more robust, and they're going to protect against leaks in your system. So now moving over to the treatment plant. The big item with the treatment plant is you're getting too much flow to it. It's more than the plant was designed or permitted to handle. The good news is the equipment's in pretty good shape. It's been well maintained, it's working well. You meet your permit for like the chemical testing and things most of the time. The exception is high flows. TDEC has noted that. They issued the notice of violations. We've noticed it. Those are things that TDEC is not going to ignore. They're going to keep coming and prodding you about that. More good news though, you have a lot of space. A lot of treatment plants are hemmed in, so you have room to do what you might want to do to add additional flow, to be able to treat more flow. Your spray fields where you discharge your effluent after it's been treated are in good shape. The work you've been doing to replace the piping in there is working, so you can get that flow out. And you also have room for expansion of there as well. So, as I said, we're going to talk more about the flows at the treatment plant. These two graphs show the flows over here on the left over time. The one on the left shows flow when school is in session. The one on the right is when school is out of session. And kudos to Trey. He actually went and looked at the school district's holiday calendar. So you can see spring breaks, fall breaks, teacher in service days, not just summer breaks. And not surprisingly, you have more flow when school is in session than you do when school is out of session. It makes a lot of sense. When you look at the treatment plant capacity, though, you can see that when school's in session, you're right up there. I mean, it's like 96,000 gallons per day. Your treated capacity is 102. Not a lot of space. It's better when school is out of session, but that doesn't carry a whole lot of weight with TDEC. Now, looking into the future, you are a growing community, and as you grow, you'll have more flow, and that's going to further strain the system. This is, I know this is hard to see, but this is a plot of your population over time, and that goes back to like the 1800s. But if you look at more recent time, your growth has been accelerating. In the latest projections, we saw that you should be over 2,000 people, approaching 2,100 people by the end of this decade. When we look at all your flows, every single day of flow, regardless of the weather, regardless of schools in session, anything like that, you can see we're right up there with our average flow versus treatment capacity. You're about 90% of your treatment capacity. In my world, right around 80-85%, that's usually the sign of action. A lot of states we practice in, that's even a code regulation that needs to be followed. So you're past that industry rule of thumb, that benchmark. So it really is time to start thinking about doing something at that plant. TDEC is not going to let it slide. Just quite frankly, they'll keep coming and visiting and making note of it. So to wrap up, generally speaking, your system's in good physical condition. You are challenged by too much flow getting to the treatment plant, but the good news is you have room and space and options there. Particularly with the lagoon system, there are things that can be done by adding additional equipment, so you can avoid having to build more lagoons or do excavation. We can just make it more efficient. So our first suggestion would be to go ahead and start doing some planning for that design for the treatment plant. I'm a huge believer in planning. Don't just, if you ever go and do repair work at your house and you just go to the hardware store and buy a bunch of stuff and you get there, you forgot a few things, you bought stuff you didn't need it, you make 3 trips back. You stop and spend a few minutes planning what you're going to do, you make a good shopping list, you go once, you spend less money, and it gets done faster. So to do a beginning planning study would probably be about $50,000. Consider equalizing the pumps flows at the sewer pumps. That's a no-cost option for you. Continue replacing your sewer pots at about the same rate you have been doing. You have a grant that is coming in to put in monitoring equipment on your pump stations, and that will help Chad find where that inflow and infiltration, that stormwater is getting in, and so you can attack that. We didn't talk about this much, but at your main pump station, there is a leak in the roof. And as I understand it, those type of roofing systems, that leak can stay the same for a long period of time and then very rapidly get a lot worse. So I talked to one of our structural engineers, and she recommended somewhere maybe in the next 4 to 5 years replacing that roof. She estimated it to be about $30,000 to $35,000, but keep an eye on it because it can escalate quickly. And then lastly, look at what the planning study will give you more direction on what your impact and planning would be for expanding the treatment plant. I'm optimistic it could be spread out over several years so that the budget impact is less, but these would be our recommendations, and I'll wrap up with any questions. I have copies of the presentation I can give to everybody if you like, and I'll email it, a copy to you too. Our plan is to answer any questions you have, see if there's anything you'd like us to dive into more, and then we'll put that into our final report and send it to you.
Go back to the slide where it shows the one more, I think. That one.
Yeah.
This is the one where you compared the
School in session, school out of session.
How far does that go? Only back to 2022? Is that what that's showing right there?
Yes.
So, did you guys look further than that, or did 2022? Is 2022 when we started to see a consistent issue with the capacity?
We went back to 2019 to look at all of our flows. To be honest with you, for this, we just went back 3 years because we could already see it, and so just making the graph bigger or adding more to it didn't add anything to the analysis.
I was just interested in when we started to see this become an issue.
I would imagine that for ever since you've had a sewer system, you've had more flow during when school was in session. But the higher flows, getting above that 80%, that was starting before 2019, that you would start seeing that.
Would the high school built in 2003 have something to do with that thinking?
Very well could, yeah. That was actually not something I considered, thank you. I'll have to look back at that, yeah. I won't overstay my welcome. Trey, do you mind handing me, helping pass out the copies of the presentation to everybody? And Chad, I'll email you this, and with that, I'll get out of your way. Thank you again for having us. Congratulations on joining the city council. And, if you have any further questions.
You got another?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
I have one more question, just to confirm. When we go forward with projects like this and say we get grants for it, even though we use grant money, that still would be considered a capital project. It would still be depreciated to hit against.
You're correct.
Okay.
All of these things I'm talking about, except for like the sewer pot replacements, your everyday maintenance, you could capitalize.
Okay.
The pump station roof, that would certainly be a capital cost. Planning, design, construction of the treatment plant, those would all be capitalizable. I don't know if that's a word. Cost you could capitalize.
You did a great job, Mike, for advertising.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I don't know. Thanks. My wife always reminds me that not everybody lives this every day, and so think about that. Here, I'll shut this down, and you'll get back to your meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item under our old business, we put the MTS rate study. We may want to put that off and let some of the sewer, what's been presented to us tonight, let it sink in before we really get into discussing updating or changing the rates in our sewer system. So if no one has a problem with that, we'll move on to the new business.
Can we just have a quick general discussion, Mr. Mayor, about that? About, I guess, what we just talked about in the rate study. I don't want to bring anything to vote or anything to do.
Yeah.
Just some general thoughts on it, for me. Probably to Jennifer's point, I'm sure when we added Creekwood to the system, that definitely made it happen for sure. I think we're kind of at a crossroads, whichever way we go. It's either expand or find somebody else that will. I don't really know. I don't think we have two other options that I can think of. And just again, I'll be ready to talk more about it at our next meeting. That's kind of where I'm at, just so everyone in the council knows. And any other suggestions, I would love to hear, because again, I'm gonna sit down and ponder this as well and go back and look at the rate study. I don't know how much all this will cost. It'll definitely be a lot. It'll definitely increase our depreciation. It'll make rates go up. It will probably, Chad would probably want more heads and carry more equipment. So I just hope we think of all of that whenever we start having some serious discussions about whichever direction we go.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on to the new business. And of course, the first item is swearing in of the new councilman, which has already been done. The only things that we've got is just reminders of Friday, this Friday from 11:30 till we run out. We'll have chili on the square. So if you want to fix a pot of chili and bring it and share it, that'd be fine. Or
Did
if
Debbie
you just-
find the flyer on her desk?
Yes.
Nobody was in there.
if you want to just come and eat a bowl of chili, and I'm sure Chad will,
Are you grilling hot dogs or just chili?
I'm sure we'll grill some hot dogs.
Where was it, in here?
Right here.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Let me know if you're bringing chili though, so I can have
Well,
a,
Jackie wanted to know,
Jackie's gonna bring some?
I think she is.
Okay.
And I've got.
You got Ricky's. Are you making some? Garland said you were.
Jackie makes really good.
I know Jenny.
Leah's always got dessert. She's a dessert connoisseur.
With the goats.
We'll have to call her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've already called Patsy. I think she's just.
Patty.
Oh,
Patty.
oh, Patty.
Patty.
Yeah.
Patty.
Yeah, Patty can.
And Robin's bringing some.
Oh, good.
Which the chili on the square, and I'm sure there'll be chili dogs too, right, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Following that will be the Scare on the Square, which will be, that's the following Sunday, the 27th, from 2 to 4 p.m., or I guess until you run out of candy.
2 to 4 is all we can handle. It's a lot of candy.
I don't know, have you had many callers coming, wanting to come?
I usually have 10 or less. That's all I ever home, but it's like enough. That's all that ever comes.
Okay.
But if there's a line 4 times to the post office.
And then Christmas on the Square, we've moved that to, I mean, that's Saturday evening instead of Saturday night from 2 to 4. And then the only other thing is our Christmas dinner. We have changed the date to Sunday, December the 8th. I don't know if that's,
6:30.
yeah, it's 6:30.
The room was already-
We tried the Friday before, but they were booked up.
Both rooms.
Could we do a 5:30 with school night? Kids, just asking.
I can call back and ask, but I mean, that was the time that he had available. I think that was the only time he had available.
Or we can all meet up at Dairy Queen.
Y'all meet
And for some reason, I just like to throw that in every time.
I'll pay for it. I won't be there.
Well, and they'll get her ice cream.
We'll get Jennifer to check on
Is that too
check on
early
his
for y'all?
time slot.
I believe that's all he had to offer was 6:30, but I'll check.
Okay, moving on to the committee reports. Mr. Vandervoort, you have anything
Those
else?
are, what was that?
Finance, really nothing. Part of, let's see, was it the ARPA grant that we're using to purchase the SCADA? And what else were we, was that going to help us start the spray fields, expanding the spray fields? Is that the money?
I think it was, let me look into it. One of them was the INI, and one of them was the SCADA.
That's
And
replacing
that
the
was all we had
pots.
under the ARPA funds.
Yeah, replacing the pots.
Yeah. Okay.
And that'll fix a lot of the capacity issues once those 20 pots, sealed pots, are installed.
What about, that's not the same grant we shared with the Water Authority, is it?
That's the one we shared.
That's the one we shared with them? Okay. All right, double checking. Wastewater Board,
How many pots have we put in so far out of the 20?
6.
So 14 to go.
We use any of those funds to hire contractors or no? Yeah. I mean, can we? Would that help you out?
Could, probably make it a little faster to get them done.
I don't-
I don't think that was considered into that grant. We were gonna do the work ourselves to get more pots.
Let me look at the remainder. I think we have the remainder of around $60,000 from the first go round. Remember we had, and I don't know that that was actually line item for anything, so that could go towards a contractor. So let me check on that because we have about 60 some odd thousand funds.
All right, the next item we have, streets, or street and bridges. Anything to report?
Jim's got all the Christmas lights ready to go.
Yep.
We had 2 that were hit by a truck on 49 that are not reusable. They're brand new ones too. So I didn't know how y'all felt about that, but it was the brand new ones we just bought.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
The new Christmas lights were hit by a truck on 49. The 2, what were they, Jim?
They were the double bells.
Yeah.
They're smashed. There ain't nothing you can do. It's going to pull the wiring harness and recycle the bulbs. Outside of that, the metal frame is shot.
And our deductible is $2,500, so it's not worth filing an insurance claim for that.
Oh, big truck here?
Yeah, big truck hit it.
They didn't stop.
They didn't stop.
I didn't need to know.
So he's salvaging parts, but we're down to lights that were probably what, $400 to $600 a piece.
Yeah, what we do is replace it. We can salvage the lights and wiring and use it into something else, but the frame gets gone.
Some money, I'm looking for, do we have that, do we have anything like that, budgeted? Would it be in some type of,
Typically, they're in beautification. They're not budgeted, but we do have a little excess where we could purchase new lights if need be. But there was none budgeted for that. In this budget year, but I mean, we have excess, so.
I don't know that it'd be necessary to replace them this year, just because we know we're not gonna have near as many lights on Highway 48 because the new poles that were set,
We are retiring some of the Angels though, because they are past their prime.
and
They didn't put no plugs.
they hadn't replaced the plugs yet, and they told me that would be the last thing they would do on that project, and they still gotta go from Mount Lebanon all the way to Buchanan, old Buchanan Hill there.
Jim, do you have an estimate on replacement of the Angels? How many?
Replacement of the engines.
Yeah, you said a few were.
Oh, well, if things come out,
Yeah.
they're pretty around. It's probably about 4.
It's not,
And well, there's some more that.
It's
they-
exact.
things like this,
Yeah.
They don't want to see the worst condition. And there's probably, I'm gonna say 10 of them altogether, maybe 12. I didn't count.
They're the ones we're gonna have to start phasing out and replacing.
They're like 30-something years old.
Yeah.
My brain, I just had bought a brand new push mower,
so remember that.
and I run over and been to
Yes,
shame.
next
I've been trying to figure out who it was.
I don't know if it was Ignite. I mean, they had.
Jim
their own
refurbishes them for
employees.
free
Yeah, 'cause
every
I
year.
mean, I
He
seen them
restrings
set
them
there.
and
When
paints
I
them.
didn't see that set there, I just figured they dumped it in the truck. They dumped it in the
Oh,
truck, and I know that it
The
is.
city just supplies the parts.
$50.
Ignite look. All right, let's move on. Street lights and signs.
So I was wondering for signs, there really at some point needs to be a sign where 49 splits off to old 48 that says Van Leer that way. Because everybody misses that curve that doesn't know where Van Leer is.
And old 48 split.
Yeah, where it like turns the curve and straight. It needs to be.
Might be a state.
State.
Yeah.
I was wondering, is it out of the city?
I was just writing down contact TDOT.
Yeah,
It's in the city.
yeah.
It's just,
Oh, it isn't. Oh, okay.
State right away.
It's in the city, but it's a state highway, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It needs one way.
I can contact
Okay.
trailers
There's
there.
curb signs there.
Yeah,
yes.
Yes, it does. It needs that too.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right, next item, public safety.
No, sir, no.
Any got anything, Kenny? All right. Parks and recreation, guess we got information we needed from Josh on at least the park. Beautification.
Dalton's coming twice a month, so they look good. Any changes? Looks good.
Planning and zoning.
Ricky's not here, but we do have a meeting coming up on the 7th. I believe Kirk has the packet. I don't have one with me.
Did you get your stuff took care of? You didn't have anything?
Really?
Yeah, he's on
It
there.
was all there, it's on.
Okay. I was gonna ask you when you're gonna get started.
It wasn't that, so.
Okay, construction, nothing going on, ambulance service. Hadn't heard anything out of them. All we like is planning and zoning. We'll have a meeting November 7th at 6 p.m. Wastewater meeting November 12th at 3 p.m. and the next council meeting, oh, wait a minute.
I was gonna say, that is the week of Thanksgiving. I don't know if I could move it up a week.
Yeah,
That's just the projected date that you guys have to vote on what day to do. I have to advertise it.
yeah, but don't we have to have a special meeting for beer board?
Yeah, we scheduled it on the 19th, right? Wasn't it?
I didn't think we ever,
Yeah,
did we?
yeah, because I had to advertise it. Let me.
Yeah.
So November 19th.
Hold on. Let me double check. There's a beer board meeting
The
because.
old Duke's Market is changing owners, right?
So November 12th at 6 p.m., Duke's Market is changing owners and they have to come before the beer board. I've already done a TBI background check on them and it's clean, but we still have to go through the formality and that's the council members. So November 12th at 6 o'clock.
So we're in the beer board,
Yes,
Yeah,
all of us?
all of us, yeah.
And
So
I've
we
got the
have
app.
to be here
Yeah.
November 12th.
6 o'clock, yeah. I've got I've already run the TBI background check on them.
And that would,
And then for the regular meeting on the
6 o'clock.
26th, we're gonna move it.
Typically we don't because Thanksgiving's not till Thursday.
Okay.
Unless
unless
we don't have a quorum.
unless somebody.
I mean, I can be here.
I'll get your.
I think so.
If something comes up,
I have to advertise it, so.
let me know or something. And we'll,
So November 26th.
yeah, we'll change it. I think that's all.
6 p.m. for the beer board meeting, correct?
Yes.
So if nobody has anything else, do I have a motion we adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second? Okay, what's second? Okay, we adjourn.
I got